The thoughts, views, and comments expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on Beyond the Headlines are not necessarily those of management, ownership, or production unit of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is a production of ILTV Studios and cannot be reproduced or represented in part or entirety without express written permission of the Verizon Media Group. Beyond the Headlines is the intellectual property of the Verizon Media Group. Copyright 2021.
Between the government and the Grand Bahama Port Authority doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. Tonight, it's Week in Review Fridays. We take a look at how the week played out on that topic and the latest from the Grand Bahama Port Authority Chairman, Rupert Haywood. Also tonight, university students say things tough. That's right, the cost of living impacting college students. Also tonight, is Adrian Gibson running as an independent in Long Island? Well, that's been the talk out there. I messaged him and he responded. I'll tell you what he had to say. And later, also this evening, Ricardo Miller joins me in studio to talk about how the absenteeism of fathers is playing out on school campuses and elsewhere in the Bahamas. This is Beyond the Headlines, Week in Review Fridays. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. Great to have you along this evening. Well, a big story this week, all week in fact. The country's chief facing scathing criticism from a member of one of the two families with ownership stakes in the Grand Bahama Port Authority. The executive is speaking out, claiming that recent comments is tearing his family down without any justifiable cause. Jose Etienne has the story.
Haywood made the claim in an open letter, saying he is a multi-generational Bahamian who, along with his family, is being wrongfully vilified. In the letter, Haywood said recent rhetoric has portrayed the Haywood family as outsiders or as somehow standing against the country's sovereignty, a characterization he described as deeply painful. He also urged the prime ministers to speak with fairness and respect, even in moments of political disagreement. But Prime Minister Davis has also been sharply critical of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, accusing it of being misleading about the tribunal's ruling. Haywood also taking exception to what he says are suggestions that the Haywood family are, quote, paper Bahamians, although we have not seen that exact phrase in the Prime Minister's recent speeches.
I cannot live with an arrangement in which two families decide the fate of tens of thousands of Bahamians in Freeport. Freeport is not the private estate of any family. It is the home of Bahamians who have the right to determine their own future through the laws and institutions of this Commonwealth. The old order, in which private interests claim the right to sit above Bahamian law, is coming to an end. We will break that order. We will replace it with one in which Bahamian sovereignty is real in Freeport.
You know, I spoke with Mr. Haywood this week as well. I think it was yesterday, in fact, and he talked about how his daughter, his children are quite emotional about everything that's playing out and how it's impacting them. And that was the reason for him penning that letter and putting it out there as a public letter. Was it a good idea? Well, we're going to get to that right now this evening. Joining me are Beyond the Headlines contributors Cassia Stewart and Leslie Miller. Gentlemen, good evening to both of you.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Gentlemen, the same question. Well, I don't know where to start with this. The open letter, though, let's go there. Rupert Haywood has a lot to say in it. In it, he says, listen, he's as much Bahamian as you, me, and everybody else, and his family's been hurt of everything that's happening. Your thoughts on this, on the tribunal partial arbitration, and the fact that the Prime Minister is saying what this is about more than anything is the people of Freeport being able to, and the government rather, having more of a say or say so in the issues of Freeport, and the people of Freeport as well being able to have their government that they elected play a role.
In trying to follow this closely and listening to the communications from the Prime Minister over the last several months in this regard, even the communications after the tribunal ruled, and then listening to Mr. Haywood's response, I'm not sure where did he get that the Prime Minister is trying to say he's not a Bahamian. So I didn't see that any which way, but I see that that is a mechanisms when you realize that your empire is falling, that you're trying to make it more personal, as if he's attacking you personally. I don't think nobody's attacking him personally. He is a Bahamian and he has every right to whatever Bahamian being, but what we are saying is that the Grand Bahama Port Authority as a company have a responsibility to pay its fair share to the government of the Bahamas. And what the argument is that the Grand Bahama Port Authority does not have sovereignty over Freeport. You have an arrangement to operate within the confines of that area, but you don't have sovereignty. You don't have sovereignty over the police, immigration, et cetera, all the other elements or tentacles of the government. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas is run by a prime minister and elected ministers. That's where the sovereignty lies. And so while we give you rights to operate, nobody is saying that you're not a Bahamian, but what we're saying is that this agreement that has been enacted before you were born is now coming into question. The Davis administration is saying that, listen, that era has ended. We're now coming into a new era where Bahamian people can benefit better and greatly from the operation of Grand Bahama, and the Bahamas government needs more control of what goes on in Grand Bahama.
Listen, I read in the newspapers and listened to television, and I was shocked that Mr. Haywood would have written such a letter. This young man would not have been born yet when Hawksbill Creek Agreement was in effect in 1956. So that's his grandfather that he's talking about. You know, the sovereignty of a country is above and beyond any agreement signed by any government in the entire world, and Bahamians should realize that only 2 countries on this planet has a situation that is similar to the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. That's in Monaco and the Bahamas. Monaco revived theirs a few times many years ago, and still in revision today, but Freeport is a city within an island, within a country called the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. You cannot believe that you have an alienable right to be above the government that was elected by the Bahamian people. Over the years, in 1969, Sir Lyndon went to Freeport when black Bahamians couldn't live in Freeport at night. You could only stay there until sunset. And when sunset, you went out of the gates, where they had their own police force there, not Bahamian policemen. It had to stop until Lyndon went and made a statement: you either bend or you will break. This is nothing new. They had owned that area by themselves, exclusively.
Well, Leslie, let's slow down, because if we don't get to all of the show tonight,
yes,
we all want to understand this better. Are you saying that initially, the initial setup of the Grand Bahama Port Authority had Freeport totally separate and apart?
Yes.
And it was a gated area?
Black Bahamians were not living in Freeport itself.
So this was the reason for Sir Lyndon's speech.
That's what his speech when he went there in 1969.
So the middle of the road was the Hawksbill Creek Agreement.
Yes. He said you'll either bend or break, but we're not going to continue to allow you to have a lot of racist white Americans there calling the shots, and our people have no rights in a city that is a part of an island that is a part of the Bahamas. It just couldn't go along any further. I am proud of Philip Brave Davis having the guts and for him to go there and force their hand that, listen, man, this cannot continue any longer. And it bothers me greatly that many Bahamians, including the leader of the opposition and the leader of the CIO, whatever the hell they call themselves, could try to downgrade what has taken place. This is a dramatic thing that has happened in our country. It changed forever, a paradigm shift with what Grand Bahama Port Authority is about, and them confining Bahamians to this little state within a state. It has to come to an end. And the government wants 6 out of 7 complaints that were lodged against them. This $1 billion that they said they were going to sue the government about, you know how that came about? Calypso, a company that was formed to produce LNG, was in Freeport. And when we were assessing all the elements within giving a license as to who should win the right to produce LNG in the Bahamas and send that LNG from the Bahamas to from Ocean Key to Florida Power and Light at Turkey Point, they would have gotten some $1 billion over 20 years. All of that $1 billion would have gone to the Port Authority. Instead, with AES, the $1.2 billion that we were getting were going to the public treasury. That's where the $1 billion thing came about.
So the government owes them because because it didn't happen?
All right, it did not happen. Calypso, they had a good shot at it. AES had a better program because we felt that why should we allow a company, a private entity, to supply LNG to the Commonwealth Bahamas and also Florida Power and Light and give it to a company instead of the people's treasury. A decision was made, we'll go with AES. We didn't have the guts, mind you, because the same people who's running now the LNG proposals in the Bahamas were the ones who was against it. When they had people that telling Bahamians to go against it, that it's going to blow up, it's going to kill people, you don't hear that anymore. This whole thing, had so many intertwines in it that many Bahamians of statue and those who had some say in this country had a say in that. Okay?
I'll tell you, in an attempt to always present the other side and to be as balanced as I possibly can, I said I spoke with Mr. Haywood, and I did more than once, and offered him an opportunity to come here and sit with me, whether via Zoom or here in person, and let's hear his side. That request has not been favorably
But think about this.
responded to as yet.
You have a country called the Bahamas. We got independence July 10th, 1973. You had a company that was incorporated by the late Wallace Groves, brilliant man, got the freeport, the Hawksbill Creek Agreement. How the hell could you sustain your country with a company that had more power than elected officials in your country? Think of that, man. Just think of the silliness in that they had the power of the police force, customs, immigration, banking, business license.
So the 71-year-old Hawksbill Creek Agreement
Yes.
worked for a certain time.
Yes, until 2046, I think, or 20.
No,
Yeah.
No, I'm saying, is it time now to maybe make it modern?
Listen, we had two shots at modifying it.
Well,
We had a
this is
shot-
what Davis is saying now.
Mr. Ingram modified in 1994, where some of the limitations were placed on it, could have fallen away. You know what they did? They came back and they said, listen, we're going to build you a school. And a school was built. They said the school cost $7 million. Of course, that was inflated probably 3 times over. But the school was built. When we had it, when we won in 2002, some aspects of it came up again. Okay? Many of us in cabinet was not for it. I was certainly one of those that was not for it. Many of us. All right, it went through, the majority prevailed. And again, they built another school. Okay? But I don't think we appreciated the dire need to make that paradigm shift. And furthermore, the amount of money that they were getting away with this building a school, but no matter what they built, couldn't equate to what they were getting and what they owed the people of the Bahamas.
Well, Cassius, how do we come to the new middle of the road? Because can this relationship be salvaged?
Well, I mean, I think if we are to really be honest with ourselves, and when you look at the relationship between the Port Authority and the governments, they've really been paying their way through, and they've really been paying their way to get what they want from governments. I think the rubber meets the road with this administration. So I think the Davis administration is saying, listen, we're not interested in you paying us off because we got to fix this problem. And I think that is a sensible thing to do because politicians have been bought, politicians have been sponsored, political parties have been bought, and so on. When it's time the election, everybody go and get their $1 million check, this one get their $1 million check, that one get, and so everybody quiet for 5 years. So nobody touches the Port Authority because they paid their way through. And so now for this administration to say, listen, the rubber meets the road, we're going to fix this. I think it's a most sensible thing to do because looking forward, looking at the sustained debt that we have, looking at the sustained deficits we have, we cannot continue with the deficits when we have a certain section of our country generating all that money and we can't touch it. In fact, we can't even regulate them. They regulate themselves. And so the Constitution is supreme. But ironically, Shanique, I was on a show in St. Kitts the other day, and they're having the same problem. The exact same problem. There's a foreign company that wants to carve out a section of some kids that have immunity. They want their own police officers. They want their own.
It exists now, or?
Right as we speak now, and the people are uproar. They've just said very same day. The same problem. They're trying to create another Grand Bahama in St. Kitts, and the Prime Minister's giving them the leeway to do it. But the people is now coming up. The legal arm is now saying we don't want it. And I told them, listen, we got a similar problem going on right now that we're fighting. And so I want to commend the Davis administration. Fight, fight, fight. We got to fight for our country. If you're the leader of our country, and we expect for you to fight for our country, we expect you to make sure that this, whatever transpires at the end, the win is the Bahamian people. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, I tell you, you know, there are many people of Grand Bahama. And us outside, we use it interchangeably. So Freeport, Grand Bahama, who feel as though, listen, Freeport is clean, it has this and that, or maybe it once enjoyed this kind of thing, where the utilities were superior to anywhere else, where the place was clean, the buildings were well kept, all this stuff, and they still are of the view, many of them, that a private entity would better handle those things.
But I think their primary issue is they don't want East Street come to Freeport.
That part.
That's all. They don't want want a government to come in there and then don't collect the garbage, don't keep the streets clean, and so on.
Benefits that Bahamians.
That's the number one issue that I hear from Grand Bahamians.
The benefits that are going to accrue to the Bahamian people with the changes that's going to be made in the Hawksbill Creek Agreement on the government of Bahamas, the present government, is so far-fetching that every single Bahamian should be proud of what took place in that situation with those two groups that was put together by Mr. Davis and the Port Authority, and bring this thing to a head. It had to come to a head.
Let's bring it to a head, but I ain't gonna
lie.
lie.
From 1969.
Wow. But I'll tell you this, Leslie and Cassius, there is one thing we are proud of with Freeport. You ain't seen no car on the side of the road being fixed. Yes. So we ain't want to see that. We ain't want to park. We need more. Now sort of get like that. Yeah.
In fact, you know, if we're gonna take over the management of Freeport,
the government doesn't want. The government never said that.
That's
not a part of.
I'm not saying what
no takeover.
What I'm saying
don't use that term.
But if we are to assume
he's not assuming that.
If we are to, what we doing it for then?
He is not assuming it
for money. If we can't control it, what are we doing it for? What are we doing it for?
To control their country.
But then if we control it, aren't we assuming rights to control it?
Well, I'll tell you this. We will wait, Leslie and Cassius. We will continue. We will wait for the Prime Minister and see the next move. That's because remember now, that was only partially. There is other areas to be addressed. Again, I have not heard anything about the government going and managing Freeport, but the government is saying it should be the government in Freeport and in Grand Bahama.
What does it mean? Government means management.
You understand?
What does it mean?
We all need that to be very made clear. Be on the headlines is back after this.
Charlie Bahama here at Superwash, Superwash's newest spokesmodel, and I'm here to tell you about Superwash's large capacity washers and dryers for all your big loads.
I know I see that Charlie Banana coming here just now.
Luckily it's also big enough for me to hide it.
I thought he was right over here where these large capacity washer and dryers is. They're big enough now to handle your big loads, you know. Yeah, like your comfort on your blanket. But just look at us. Somebody forget to turn on the dryer. Oh, stop! You hear something? Yeah, that's the sound of clean. Superwash washes you, presses you, and entertains you 24/7.
The Fox Foundation proudly presents the keynote speaker for the 3rd Annual Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative, this March 19th at 7 p.m. at the beautiful Baha Mar Resort. Get ready to be inspired by Randy Zuckerberg, tech innovator and the creator of Facebook Live. She revolutionized real-time digital engagement, empowering individuals and brands to broadcast instantly to global audiences. And now she brings that innovation and insight to the Fox Foundation's 3rd Annual Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative, March 19th at 7 p.m. at the Baha Mar Resort. Under this year's theme, Give to Gain, join us for a night designed to inspire growth, spark opportunity, and strengthen the future of women in business.
Play for fun, not for funds.
In the Bahamas, we play hard,
but we live smart.
We love a little competition.
A little excitement, a little thrill.
And at Idle Luck, gaming is all about entertainment.
Shared moments, celebrating the wins, and enjoying the experience.
The key is simple. Play for fun, not for funds.
When you set a budget before you start,
and know your limits, you stay in control.
And when you're in control, the game stays what it's meant to be.
Fun.
So play for fun, not for funds.
Must be 18 and over. Island Luck reminds you that it's only a game, so please game responsibly.
103.5 is turning 8 years old. 103.5 The Beat and Keep the Vibe Alive Music Group presents The Beat Fest. It's a Bahamian musical experience on March 14th at The Pond. Doors open 7 p.m. sharp. Performing live, Shine, Stevie S, Mama D, Veronica Bishop, Funky D. All backed up by The Pond Band. Hosted by Joe Cools, 1K Gaza, and Jess Mo. Music by 103.5 The Beat DJ. Tickets available now at all Beauty Shack locations. General admission, $30. VIP, $75. Get your tickets early. Spots are limited. Sponsored by Mazzari International, The Plug, and The Beauty Shack. And of course, 103.5 The Beat.
This segment is brought to you by EV Motors Fleet Sales Division. For 2026 commercial vehicles, call 821-2403 today.
Distinguished. And it took too long to do it. And you got to give Brave credit for doing it.
Well, I'll tell you that discussion, you hear it right now, will continue. Obviously, it will continue. However, though, let's see what else we're talking about this evening. So, of course, conversations on the high cost of living are continuing, and it's often aimed at adults who already have a feeling for footing essential bills. What about adolescents still not fully engulfed in the labor force? Many of them walking the corridors of the University of the Bahamas said that they too are feeling the pinch. Here's Danielle Dean.
It's really challenging to save up towards land and housing.
For many university students, the biggest question after graduation isn't just finding a job, it's whether they'll be able to afford life on their own. As young Bahamians prepare to enter the workforce, the country's rising cost of living is already weighing heavily on their minds. Recent cost of living estimates suggest a single person in Nassau can spend more than $2,000 a month on basic expenses before rent, with one-bedroom apartments often costing between $1,500 and $2,000 per month. For students trying to plan their future, the numbers can feel overwhelming.
It's terrifying. Something as simple for me to go and make a meal for like a Tuesday night once I leave school. It's very expensive. It's like $100 for just one meal. I don't think I can maintain that going forward with the salary that you get now.
18-year-old nursing major Angelina Lewis says while her age may currently shield her from some of those financial responsibilities, she knows that reality is quickly approaching. And while she loves the field she's chosen, she admits the thought of balancing a nurse's salary with the country's cost of living can be intimidating.
Imagine me as an 18-year-old working $6.50 an hour compared to a woman who actually have kids or family who trying to provide for their family, you understand? I feel like it would be good for it to be raised up a bit higher so that people can actually pay rent, people can actually provide meals for their family.
Meanwhile, civil engineering major Cameron Moss says the cost of living can feel discouraging for young people trying to study their way into success. But he believes there are ways to navigate the challenge and is encouraging his peers to think strategically about their options.
I think the most important thing with spending your money is making sacrifices, saying no to something. Maybe you want to, I know people may be into different things like fashion and like gaming and stuff like that, but sometimes it's important to say no and wait until later, until you have enough.
For many of these students, the hope is that tertiary education will provide the head start they need to build financial independence and a stable future.
It's like university trying to get a head start of getting a higher paying job.
Danielle Dean, Eyewitness News.
I'll tell you this, what I love watching and engaging myself in on social media is news from around the world. And Cassius and Leslie, I see that being said everywhere. I mean, today you're fortunate anywhere if you are able to go and purchase or build a home. It is going to take so much more. And I guess, of course, them, in university and looking forward to a future, these are some of the things that they're thinking about.
Well, the number one issue I guess we have is high energy costs, because energy affects everything else, from cooking gas and so on. Food makes burgers expensive, food expensive. If we could find a way to bring the cost of energy down, fuel down, then I think we'll see a savings. That's what America is trying to do now. But across the board, it's really, really expensive to live in New Providence. I mean, I've been to Grand Bahama 2 weeks ago, and I could truly say that it's much cheaper than Nassau. And so you could have a good time on a couple of dollars in Grand Bahama, but when you come to Nassau, Jesus Lord, they can kill you. And so, but it is high, rent is high and so on, but we have to find a way to we can manage to bring the costs down, because even the minimum wage, 260, 80, what it is, 280, that ain't really much. That ain't really much for people to function on, considering if they go out on a Friday night, just to go out is $150 and so on. So, it's tough, so we have to find ways to ease the hemorrhaging to make sure that people could really enjoy their lives.
The biggest problem we have in this country is Bahamians being unable to find jobs, young Bahamians. And that follows the fact that the blue-collar sector is now paying more than the white-collar sector. Someone working at a bank couldn't even compare with someone out there building a house, being a contractor, being a mason, carpenter, etc., make much more, much more. It's difficult for those young college students who their first option is to try to get a car, number one. They will give you that, but don't try to get a home. It's really frustrating for the young average Bahamian who's doing very well in UB. In fact, I met some last night campaigning in the Tall Pines constituency with Owen Wells. We are young ladies coming out there with degrees. We had one last night. She's a nurse, registered nurse. Just got her degree a few months ago, qualified, is now going into the job market and living with her mother, because it's difficult for you to get an apartment over there at a price of, $1,200 for one bedroom? It's just unconscionable that this situation has taken effect on the average young Bahamian. It's very difficult, and something needs to be done. And then, $280 just ain't gonna cut it for the average Bahamian working at that lower tier.
I think it's 60.
It can't happen.
But Leslie, I think we and Cassius, we've also got to push, and I don't know.
You need a trade school.
That's it.
You got to do it.
Because one income will no longer suffice.
A trade school.
One income will not suffice, and we've got to kind of become more creative somehow.
We have to do it.
Yeah, we must. BTVI is there.
Someone said to me that they grew up in a nice school, but one thing they regretted is that the upper class school don't allow them to learn trade. They would have benefited much more if they learned a trade and learned, and so I thought it was a really good twist, because, of course, trade for those who not doing too well, because when I was in school, if you wasn't doing too well, they would throw you in plumbing and electrical work and so on. But, the lady said to me, if I had learned a trade with my education, then I would have benefited much more.
It's not too late.
Which is pretty good.
Listen, within the next 30 years, the Bahamian is going to be wiped out if you don't have the proper trade school. That you can have a trade school there with everything that we do in our daily life, that kids can go and learn.
Absolutely.
You got to get wiped out.
Listen,
I've seen it every day.
There are many burgeoning industries right now. For example, the knowledge-based industry. That sounds heavy and loaded, right? It's all simply what you know. If you could set up a camera or your phone and you tell some people about that, you begin making money. And so what I want the government to do, any government, take the shackles off Bahamians where they can actually go and start making money online. Yeah. I don't think that is in play as yet. It's been talked about, but let Bahamians begin earning online. That is producing the fastest growing millionaires around the world. People presenting knowledge-based ideas or whatever it is. People who call themselves influencers.
That's going to be difficult for us to do in the Bahamas.
Whatever it is. Why can't we?
If you're looking at the Bahamian market.
No, Leslie. The world, right, Leslie. Right now, I get hits from anywhere in the world. Am I paid for? Am I paid for it?
Yeah.
Not 1 cent.
Because we have regulations. Central Bank has their regulations when it comes to fintech businesses, and so we need to be able to have this ACH payments, as automatic clearinghouse, where you have an application and that could tie directly into your bank account. In other words, if you have a website called lesliemiller.com and people like you and they send you money, you could take that money you make and drop it directly into your Scotia Bank or Royal Bank account. Right now, there's blockages. You can't do that. So Shanique goes live on her TikTok or her WhatsApp. She can't bring that money back home. I sell money on Amazon. I can't bring that money back home. I got to have a U.S. account to send the money there. And so we have all of these blockages to allow the free flow of money because we want to see what everybody got.
Why?
Because we want to see what everybody.
I'll tell you this.
We want police everything.
Philip Brave Davis. Make that your second thing after this Grand Bahama Port Authority little
expose
row.
It to the world.
Expose it to the world. Sort that out. Free us. That way you ain't got to try.
That's a good thought, but it's not practical.
You ain't got to
I don't
go
understand why it ain't practical, Leslie.
and think about having to raise the minimum wage again. Why? Because people are making money. Okay? Because everybody else in the world is doing it.
Because we stuck in this thing that we need a minimum wage job. The way the world works now is you don't need nobody in the Bahamas to pay you. Right now, of course, you see how the GoFundMe account works. You can get money from all over the world. But think about you using your own platform to be able to make money, expose yourself around the world.
And how many people have that ability to do that? Let's just get real now.
You.
How many people in the Bahamas
Leslie Miller,
can do that?
You want to hear something?
No,
sir, you.
I work for a living.
No, of course you do.
That's working, Leslie.
Leslie, that is the new career. And the reason I say
because you don't understand, I don't kill it.
No, wait, Cassius. The reason I said him is because he has a phone, and all he can do is go on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and that's how it starts.
But that's not reality for most people.
That's reality for a whole generation.
So there'll be a lot of rich Bahamians.
Everybody is
who
scrolling.
can afford this telephone, right?
Everybody's
the phone
scrolling.
is going to make you earn your living.
Yes.
Leslie,
you really think so?
I am telling you, Leslie, people are becoming millionaires, making six figures through their phone.
Tell it to the average person in this country that I interact with every day.
Leslie, they know that.
Leslie,
they know it.
So why are they doing something about it?
You don't know what's going on.
I know what's going on.
No, someone doing it. However, are we being paid? We can't be paid. So you see influencers, what they're doing then, because there are several layers to this. So someone could like me, and some business can come and say, Shanique, you know what? I'll pay you this to go and promote my stuff. So it's different levels of how people are making money online.
Also, there are 12 billion people in the world.
And your audience is the 12 billion people in the world. You know? But anyway, I'll tell you this. Speaking of audience and 12 billion people, there's one particular person we're focusing on in this next topic. Speculation is intensifying around the political landscape in Long Island following the Free National Movement's recent ratification choices, with reports suggesting sitting MP Adrian Gibson will run as an independent after the F&M nominated Andre Rollins. Opposition leader Michael Pintard says the party is focused on unity and confirming that he plans to meet with Gibson and reaffirms confidence that the F&M will retain the Long Island seat.
Your thoughts on former Prime Minister Huberman is launching his independent campaign this week?
When I woke up, he was not top of mind. When I go to sleep tonight, he was not top of mind. That's not going to change during the day.
Is that
I have no thoughts on that. I'll speak to my brother and our colleague, and we'll find out what the facts are.
You think that will impact the chances in Long Island?
I've just said we will win Long Island.
Listen, you see Adrian White start. Listen, Adrian is, speaking of social media, Adrian is doing that chicken sauce he had. I'll get to it later though, another time. Yeah, that he ain't playing. But anyways, Leslie, Cassius, you all heard the opposition leader. Now, before you all respond to that, because we discussed Adrian Gibson on the show before, and many of you all held the opinion that Shanique, don't sleep on Adrian, because the people of Long Island still like Adrian. But I reached out to him, and this was on Wednesday, in fact. He laughed at the suggestion that he is going to be an independent candidate. He said, in time, we will talk. Much of what I've seen today is speculation. Gentlemen, your thoughts on whether or not he will move forward with this idea?
Well, I think, everybody, what the Free National Movement has done is told Adrian Gibson that they don't want him. Now, that means is that the end of Adrian Gibson's career, that he has to decide what sword he's going to fall on and die. And so most people say, listen, I'd rather die on my own sword. I will go there and I'll run independent, and I don't care what you're saying. Even William Hunt and Sally Lucha say he's going to be running independent and so on. Mm-hmm. And so there are people who are saying that, listen, we're going to run independent. I don't care what the party say. If I die, let me die on my own sword. And I guess that's what Adrian Gibson is feeling. So if that's what he wants, then go right ahead. Of course, it'll be problems for the Free National Movement, because if he still has some degree of credibility with the people down there, that'll take votes away from the F&M, and so we'll see how it works out.
Listen, let us be fair to the F&M, eh? Adrian Gibson has a case in court that's been going on now for the last 3 years. It would be most improper for a political party that's been the government for some 4 terms to nominate a candidate who's before the courts. Most inappropriate. So he know that could not have happened. He has support down there. Adrian's a good buddy of mine. I don't expect him to be the winner down there. The F&M has a candidate, the PLP has a candidate, the F&M has a candidate, and I expect that it be a tight race, depending on how many votes Gibson could gather from his people there. The PLP stand a chance of winning. I don't look forward to it, but I think they stand a chance that...
You don't look forward to the PLP winning?
I say they stand a chance that they could probably take the seat. But Rollins is from there too. He's very popular.
Renika from there too? I mean,
Renika, a pretty decent
Renika mother from them is Knowles. She taught me in Arm Bailey. She's
going to be interesting to see how that
and you know, I don't know. I do know Renika Knowles. I always say to her, if I want a business partner, it can be Renika Knowles, because she's a worker, hard worker, go-getter. I know her personally. And so I ain't trying to endorse nobody, but I'm saying as an individual, if I always said, if I can get a business partner, it could be Renika Knowles.
Oh, well, there you go, Renika, because boy, her speech that evening, that went viral for a different reason. So I am so happy, Cassius, that you kind of somehow, you helped. No, she's a nice person. I met her one time on Paradise. I was surprised, and you know, very unassuming, very nice lady. Oh, okay. But we'll see with that race, and we'll see what Adrian decides. I wanted to ask you gentlemen about what's taking shape. Of course, you know, we looked, and temperature check, we looked at Killarney. I wanted to ask you all how you all think that it's looking, but we are totally out of time.
Everybody knock on my door, shit.
Really? I see everybody is campaigning. I saw Dr. Menace, yes.
Everybody put something on my gate. I see nobody, but he put something on my gate.
I see them out there hard, pounding the pavement. Absolutely. It is. Killarney's going to be interesting.
I expect the lady again. COI
How you could remember the COI name whenever you talk about her?
She's going to make the difference.
Whenever you talk about her,
she is going to make the difference in the election.
Anything else, you're talking about CIO.
She's going to make the difference.
Okay.
She will settle who the winner is.
Yes. I thank you so much. Leslie Miller, Cassius Stewart, thank you both very, very much. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, Ricardo Miller, that's right. You all see him oftentimes on like Zoom with me. Well, he is in studio tonight. He's up next after the break. The race to 2026 is heating up, and the nation's voice is louder than ever. Here on Beyond the Headlines, we're checking the mood, the momentum, and the message of the people. I'm Shanique Miller. Each week, we're taking the temperature of the electorate to see what's really driving the nation. Who's connecting? Who's cooling off? What issues are heating up ahead of 2026? This is Temperature Check 2026, where journalism meets the nation's heartbeat.
Hey, it's time to lock in your vote.
Your vote is your power.
With the new boundaries in place, you may need to transfer or confirm your voter registration.
And if you have never registered or didn't plan to vote,
don't get left out on one of the most important decisions of your future.
Make sure when election day comes, you're ready to say,
your say, your vote, your choice.
103.5 is turning 8 years old. 103.5 The Beat and Keep the Vibe Alive Music Group presents The Beat Fest. It's a Bahamian musical experience on March 14th at The Pond. Doors open 7 p.m. sharp. Performing live, Shine, Stevie S, Mama D, Veronica Bishop, Funky D, all backed up by the Pond Band. Hosted by Joe Cools, 1K Gaza, and Jess Mo. Music by 103.5 The Beat DJ. Tickets available now at all Beauty Shack locations. General admission, 30. VIP, 75. Get your tickets early. Spots are limited. Sponsored by Mazzari International, The Plug, and The Beauty Shack. And of course, 103.5 The Beat.
This segment is brought to you by EV Motors Fleet Sales Division. For 2026 commercial vehicles, call 821-2403 today.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you all tuned in. This Friday, I told you that we had a treat coming up for you. And this is the segment, pull up a chair, especially you parents, guardians, even you teenager, male or female, in high school, middle school. This here is just for you. Welcome to this segment of Beyond the Headlines this Friday evening. I am happy to be joined by, in studio, Ricardo Miller. Ricardo is a city councilman in the city, I believe it's called, of Red Oak, Texas, near the Dallas area. It's good to have you here, Ricardo. Good evening to you. I know that you've been very, very busy. You're in the Bahamas spending a bit of time, but still you're going out speaking to young people and youth and student groups. And this is something that you love doing, that you thrive on.
Most certainly, Shane. Thank you so much for having me. Today I had the opportunity to go to C.H. Reeves. As you know, I went to C.H. Reeves. And so to be able to, C.H. Reeves was one of my stamping grounds. And congratulations to them, because I heard they win it all on yesterday, and then Junior Junkanoo, you know, C.H. Reeves, what can I say?
Yeah. One of those wonderful institutions.
Right? Yes.
Let's talk a little bit first about you before we get into this, because this evening we're going to talk about young men, and I know you kind of perhaps zeroed in on this with them. We talked last week and this week about a major fight. Several students have been taken into custody that happened on Doris Johnson Senior High School campus in the middle of the school day. And so you were here to talk about really young men in crisis, where faith plays into that, but even more equally as important, the missing father component and how it's affecting. But let's just talk about your city councilman post in Red Oak, Texas. How's that going? Are you seeking re-election? You know, we are months away from a general election ourselves. Are you paying attention to all of this?
Most certainly, I am paying attention. I love every bit of Bahamian politics. As a matter of fact, I've been studying it, and I'm motivated. I'm inspired by the strength and the condition of passion and drive that is given to Caribbean politics, because I follow a number of other countries as well throughout the region. And so the Bahamas is home. And so for Red Oak, I love Red Oak. And so I have the opportunity to possibly run for another 2 terms before I'm unable to run again. And so my goal is to serve all 3 of those terms, which will be 9 years.
Give us an idea about some of the things you're doing there. I mean, you know, we know politician is a politician anywhere. You've got to be seen, be impactful, have the people feel you, for them to, get to know you and want to re-elect you. That's what's happening right here as they go and they kind of coast various constituencies and that type thing. But what are some of the things you're doing in Red Oak?
Well, for one, I'm a people's person. I'm a boots on the ground kind of guy. And so anybody who has ran before has never been as actively as engaged with the community as I am, because I love my community and I learned locally in the Bahamas on the importance of stay connected during that particular 3-year term. So God bless the person who decides to run against me this next term, because I've been on the ground the entire 3 years. But with that said, there's so many things, from the parks, from the police department, fire department, from housing communities, different investments we're trying to get within our city. Because remember, Red Oak is about 20,000 residents, but we're right next door to Dallas and Arlington, where the Cowboys is, and Fort Worth. And so everything that's trying to come to the Metroplex, the cities are trying to get theirs. And so for us, as the local government that runs the city of Red Oak, our goal is to put us in a very healthy, progressive position to ensure that our tax base is really low and that people feel good about living in Red Oak. And so we're doing really well. I love the fact that that's the city I'm in, because there are a lot of surrounding areas that are not as strong and as healthy as we are.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. I often watch you from a distance. We often talk. Many times you've appeared on the show, and I look forward to continuing to hear your story as you just go after more and more goals and beat those goals, you know. But let's just talk about what's happening. You see in the Bahamas what's going on. The Commissioner of Police was in the news earlier this evening talking about crime and on family islands, and that, thank God, it's still at a point where it's just happening sort of one-offs, but it's happening. Yes. And it's disturbing. The fight that I told you about also, that have several teenagers facing charges. Let's talk about fathers and the role they play, the very all-important role that fathers play, but because many of them are so missing and many homes are void of fathers, we see what we're saying.
You know, I grew up in a single parent home. My mom didn't have my dad present inside of our home or even in my life. But as I look throughout the country and I see the particular issue, one that I felt that I struggled with, and a lot of the young men at my particular time being on the street is still currently dealing with, and that is a lack of training. Now, I got a chance to speak to students today, and most times people say, well, I spoke to that young man. Talking to is not training. And a lot of times people think because I talked to you, I trained you. That's not necessarily true. And so many individuals talk to me over the years, as there are a lot of other individuals throughout our country who goes to school and they talk to young men. Training has to take place, and that's not happening at the level in the home or in a lot of our social organizations that are trying to even connect. And so there is a lot of missing pieces when it comes to training and developing the next generation. And I think, one, having grown up on the streets, looking back at the number of people who tried to tell me what to do and not understand the psychological position that I was struggling with when it comes to my identity, when it comes to my emotions.
What impacted your identity? What made you question who you were? Because you had a whole lot of bumps along the way to get to where you are right now.
Yeah. Well, number one is everybody's trying to fit in. And the ability to learn to stand alone and be who you are is something most young men aren't prepared to do. They're trying to fit in the hierarchy of the streets. And so you can't look at me a certain kind of way without me responding back to you a certain kind of way. Yeah. And so most kids are living in their home, but they're not being trained in the home they're living in.
Yeah, and that's because, and you find even girls need their fathers. And so that's because, again, just as we talked about, and we started this conversation because of the father. How about the pressure to be cool? I don't know if this is more boys or girls, but the pressure to be cool and how that ends up being a dangerous thing.
I referenced the fact that when I went to R.M. Bailey, I had 3 things inside of my backpack. I had a shoe brush, a hairbrush, and a towel. The towel was to sit on, the hairbrush was to keep my hair on point, and my shoe brush was to keep my shoes clean. And so with that said, this whole concept of being cool hasn't been addressed. It hasn't been addressed for a couple of generations. Clearly, there comes a time when the light bulb moment comes on, when there is this, who do I want to be? Where am I trying to go? And hopefully you see that sparked in a person's eye that makes the turn. And that happened for me. But a lot of young people don't have that. And they live for a long time stuck in a bad place in regards to social circle, in regards to cultural pressure, in regards to the day-to-day behavior that is being expected from the streets. The teacher in the classroom is not managing the class anymore, Shanique. Yeah. The challenge is the kids in the classes are just showing up in the classroom as simply a place to go rather than a place to be developed. And so I believe that more now than ever, we have to get to the very core of, in subtle ways, creative ways, chipping away at the negative elements that are actually bombarding our young people.
Especially the influence of social media. I mean, being cool now is trying to keep up.
Yes.
And keeping up with people who get paid handsomely to kind of play the fool and act silly on social media. Yes. Or perhaps just floss on social media, whatever it is.
Let's take a look at media again. What is trending? Most of the things that are trending is not good. almost on straight across all boards of media, right? But when I think about influencing the next generation, I think it is very important that we understand that in the 80s, when I was coming up, I could recall they would have commercials that educate you on behaviors that was expected of you. In other words, you would hear people constantly talking about the importance of reading and talking about having manners, and you would talk about how do you carry yourself. And so these were all little creative ways. And I think one of the things we can do today is have campaigns that address the bigger need. How do we support the parent? How do we support the kid? How do we support the school environment? How do we support the neighborhoods? And how do we make sure this is a long-term plan that speaks to the various needs of our young people? So three different groups of people have to be very, very intentional about what they do. Parents who are watching, they have to figure out, one, get the support system necessary to help that child to get a plan for their life to move away from negative. Secondly,
it's not too early right now to help steer kids, whether they be in middle school and high school, to help steer them in in better directions.
Well, you know, the older you get, the more difficult it becomes. So we really do want to try and start as early as possible. The concept of discipline has to be introduced, and discipline is not beating like beating was back in the day.
What it is?
You have to study the child. Years ago, when a teacher took the class and walked in the class, they walked straight up to the board, and I'm Mr. Miller. And the students would all quiet up and so forth. Now the teacher taught, and you were taught to listen to the teacher. Teaching today requires teachers to know who's in the class and have the skill set to meet the needs of the different types of students in the class. So now you got the child who have ADHD, you got a child who got all of these different factors that needs the skill set. So the parents have the same challenge. Parents, well, watch this.
But imagine Ricardo Miller, a teacher with 30 plus students in it. We talked about this just last week, or maybe even earlier this week with that same fight. Listen, ain't nothing wrong with corporal punishment, Ricardo Miller.
I didn't say anything else.
I'm not saying abusive and in a way that abuses the student, but certainly, you know why we respected the teacher when Mr. Miller went to the board? Because we know if we played up and act the fool, what Mr. Miller was going to do is this.
Yes.
You understand?
So I believe that definitely has a place, but it didn't work for everybody.
Okay.
And so that's why I'm saying we have to get creative enough to say it may need to be introduced, but then we also need to introduce a couple of other things.
I agree.
And so we need to look at how do kids respond to the different ways correction is actually working for the kid. Because for me, whipping didn't work, but something worked. And I think it's important for us to find that.
Yes, no, very, very good point. Now then, how do you also address what is still, I imagine, in your days at R.M. Bailey and right now today on so many school campuses, and perhaps that is what led to that fight we saw play out last week and this week. Gang violence is still an issue. Kids are being enticed by gangs and to join and sometimes even forced, because if they don't, then they're the odd man out, and they're going to be, I guess, targeted for it.
You know, when I started my kids program at C.H. Reeves back in the day, and I went on to Thelma Gibson and Ridgeland Primary, setting up programs for kids on the weekend, one of the things that I did not refuse to accept, which was gang activities were always here. I can remember, once again, the rebellions, and I can remember the gangs before the rebellions and so forth. So the truth of the matter is the school wars, I can remember the C.H. Reeves and the R.M. Bailey clashes, or the R.M. Bailey and the C.I. Gibson clashes. I remember those. So I'm saying there is some tough conversations that need to be had. Like we really, really need parents, number one, to not be naive and say, you know, these kids today, without understanding some of the pressure these kids are dealing with today. So when I deal with my son, when I deal with my daughter in school, I'm saying to them, here's what's going to happen. Peer pressure is real. Here's how you respond to it. Gang activities is real. Here's how you respond to it. I often talk about a story of a couple of girls who lived off a Marathon years ago. And I remember these girls were well taken care of, trained, developed, educated. I mean, they were connected. And a couple of the guys from Soldier Road was trying to talk to these girls, right? But the impressive thing about the girl, one time I saw her years later, and I said, how come none of the guys from the street ever claim, because no one got anywhere with y'all? And the girl said, oh, man, my daddy used to come and say to us exactly where you always going. And then we would have dinner and we would talk about, Marty, try to hold my hand. Marty, and they would have conversation and it protected them. They were trained to go into the world.
Right, they didn't go into the world blindly. They didn't walk to school with each other and not quite know what the pickup was or the game was with those guys. I want to, let's get positive and give some wonderful results and where parents right now can begin finding solutions for their kid. And even if the kid is a good kid, to continue moving them forward. The importance of this positive influence, like sports or whatever else it is. And then I want to talk about where faith also falls into it.
I believe that more now than ever, we have to accept the fact that I believe every parent needs to, one, open up their level of conversation with their kids. Do you know how many parents don't know how to talk to their kids about so many subjects? And so there are people watching right now and the boy is changing and you don't know how to talk to the boy. The girl is changing. And so here's one of the things that I teach. When your child starts to bring the greatest level of problem to you is when you start to become irrelevant to your child. So when you see a parent say, he just got into 6th grade and just stopped listening, that spoke to the fact that you had the skill set to bring him up to about the 5th grade, but now the growing child needs a growing parent. And so you have to be ahead of the child to speak to that child. And so you're in front already, you're the parent. So be honest as to where you were and where those around you were. And I think that's one of the things that will make a big change when you start to realize your daughter is changing. Hey, we need to talk. Let me tell you, boys are coming.
Jump on it right
ahead of
immediately.
yes. Because here's one of the challenges we have in our culture. By the time as we sit down and have the talk, you're a hater. You're old and you ain't got it going on and you're trying to stalk me and now I'm everything. You're trying to tell me to slow the roll and dim my light when the truth is I'm the popular girl in school now and you used to be and now you hating on me.
You know, they stupid enough to say something like that nowadays. Quickly, very, very quickly about faith. Let's not wrap this up without, and I hear the indication to wrap. How important is faith? And parents nowadays who figure church out of date and they ain't got no place for faith, but they really need faith in rearing of today's youth.
The faith is super necessary. The Bible talks about training up a child in the way they should go. I believe more now than ever again that one, there's a church that will help your child to be developed in the way that they should go, but healthy partnership is necessary with churches. And so churches are trying, but the partnership of parents with the church and the mandatory involvement of the child in church also in that environment that is trying. Years ago, the Boys Brigade tried to recruit me, but my parents didn't enforce me to continue. I wish to God now that I stayed because I could have learned an instrument and I would have had the discipline like I did with my son. When you sign up, you're not going to quit in the middle of something you signed up. So churches are there to help, but we have to now watch this. There's enough churches to not just dismiss church, but literally see the one that best fit the need, where the pastor and the programs relate to the needs of your child and the support system you're going to have to incorporate.
I thank you so much. I wish you would stop by it once a month in person. How about that? Can we make that deal?
I know, right?
City Councilman of Red Oak, Texas, Ricardo Miller, thank you very much for being here this evening and always very impactful, empowering, and also kind of that light bulb moment that so many people are in need of in various areas of their lives. In this instance, the family, fatherhood, youth, and getting all of our acts together. Thank you once again. Yeah, absolutely. I want to say a big thank you to all of you for hanging out all week long. It's been awesome having you here. I'm Shanique Miller for the